The Rebbe is explaining greater and greater depth the question of the Maimer of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Why is it that Yidden are called Tzivos Hashem when it comes to Yetzias Mitzrayim? And the essential problem is that the name Hashem was not referred to then as Tzvokos at all. It only comes later, the time of the Nevi'im. That's because it's a lower state of the Jewish people and therefore the world Bechlal. And Yidden, by the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim, were at the level of Atzilus. They were Neshamas Atzilus, Doira Shel Moishe. Therefore, they were immeasurably beyond the name, the level of Elikus conveyed in the name Tzvakos. So why call them Tzivos Hashem? And that's he's explaining the question in subsequent layers. And finally, the final beer, the answer will come according to Tzemach Tzedek. But the final beer of the question is augmented. The question is augmented by the Mittel Rebbe's explanation, explaining the Shem Tzvokos, and he explains the difference between the Shem Tzvokos and the other names of Hashem She'eino Nimchakim, which are not erased. As you shall recall, the Shem Tzvokos itself is a matter of, as it were, dispute. Some hold that it isn't part of the 7 names that can't be erased, which tells you already that it's not at the same level of Kedusha. So what's the mashal of the Mittel Rebbe? The mashal of the Mittel Rebbe is, of course, the Koiches HaNefesh. Every mashal in Chassidus, generally the most aligned and therefore accurate mashalim come from the Nefesh, because the Neshama, the Nefesh, is rooted in Atzmos to begin with, and then descends through Ishtalshalus, acquiring all of the properties of Ishtalshalus, and even the Nefesh Abahamis, and even the Guf is a reflection of that. The physical body is a reflection of the Nefesh. So therefore, Mipsori Echseleka, from my flesh, which means both the Guf and the Nefesh in the body, we behold godliness because we are indeed a reflection of Elikus. A person is made in the image of Hashem. So what's the mashal? The mashal is identifying there are two, three levels of name. The word chacham, when you say someone's a chacham, you can mean that on 3 levels. What are the 3 levels? Anybody wants to help me? In English, plain English. Level 1 is, he's essentially a chacham. Essentially a chacham means that this person has an inexhaustible fountain of wisdom. That doesn't mean to say, mind you, that he has the answers to every question, but he will find the answers, and he will inquire. We're not speaking knowledge of, a person isn't born with knowledge, but he is a chacham be'etzem, in that he has we call it the ability, but it's the koich hamaskil. It's a deep, hardwired faculty within this person that just makes him super intelligent and able to discover, entertain, and explore endless subjects. That's the Shem Ba'etzem. The next, then moving outwards from the essence of the person, the next term, then Shema Toya. Now Shema Toya is a description. Now that isn't describing the essential state, but that's describing his intellectual, that's more the IQ, the intellectual faculties, the measurable intellectual faculties. IQ, Pashid has IQ. IQ is more than this, is external. That's already the kalim for the etzim koyach hachachma. The etzim koyach hachachma can't be measured even. You can't measure the etzim koyach hachachma. There's no test that will measure that. The only test that we can give the person is to measure his IQ. So what measuring there is his faculties. But obviously a very broad and developed IQ, which you can see even in a child, comes from an essential koyach hachachma, but that can't be measured. but obviously it's there. And then there's what? that he calls Shema Toyar. And then there's the third level, which he has two names for. Shema Pa'ula, Shema Kinoi. This is quite simply the person expressing his Chachma. You listen to a person, he speaks, sharing profound wisdom. This man is a Chacham. What are you relating to? You're not relating, you don't know, you haven't measured his IQ, and you certainly know what is privy and can really identify the Etzem, Koyach HaChachma. What you're seeing is manifested intelligence. So you use the word Chacham on all three levels. But they mean different things. It's all to say what the Shemas are. Why is he saying this? It's all to draw the contrast between the seven Shemas and Shem Tzvakis. I'm going to give you the fast forward so you know where he's going. So we say the Oasis now, it'll make sense. In Atzilus, what, maybe you tell me, Atzilus will be what? There are Shemas and Atzilus. Again, remember, the word Chacham, when you say Chacham, depending on what one is referring to, it could be three things. The Etzem HaChachma, his IQ, or his manifested, articulated wisdom that earns him the title Chacham. No, so what's Atzilus? No, Atzilus is Oir Bekalim. The Etzem is like Oir. The Etzem is like the Oir. So Atzilus is, the Kalim of Atzilus is akin to. You're supposed to make Atzilus more understandable, not less. The Kalim, the relationship between the Oir and the Kalim and Atzilus is akin to the relationship between his Etzem Koyach HaChachma and his IQ, his faculties of intelligence. They fuse together seamlessly. Again, so much so that the Etzem Koyach HaChachma you can't even identify. You can't separately from the IQ. We could just measure the IQ, but the IQ is really a more external step. It's pointing to and saying that he is this etzem, chachma ability, and therefore it manifests in broad and appropriate intellectual faculties or capacities. So that's Atzilus. Atzilus is united. The Kalim of Atzilus are united with and one with the Oir Ein Sof, which is Bligvul. And in the Nimshal, the fact that he's Etzem, Be'etzem B'chacham, that's Bligvul. His IQ is a measure. There's a measure of IQ, right? There's a measure of the intelligence, super IQ, but there's a measure. It's not Bligvul. The IQ is measurable. But that fountain of inquiry, of discovery, of endless, it's inexhaustible, of endless intellectual pursuits, discovery, insights, etc., that's inexhaustible. We could never predict, how many discoveries this person is going to make by looking at his IQ. You can't know. It will depend on the Rotz and many other factors that will, summon the Koyach HaMaskal forth. But they unite. They're in perfect fusion. We're looking, when we measure his IQ, we're not looking at technical apparatus here. We're looking at the intelligence, that's a machachmas, that's manifested in the IQ. Separate things, but united seamlessly. That's Atzilus. Whereas Tzvakos, which is already Biyah, that is what? That's the Pa'ula. That's a person speaking and really, here's an idea, here's a lecture. So there's profound Chachma over here, but it's articulated to others outside in words and language, very, very limited with a particular subject, highly, highly limited, and that is a mashal for Bria. All to say, not a mashal for Shem Tzvakes, which means Bria. All to strengthen the question. This is already a world of zulas, of outside, of high definition. It's gvul compared to bligvul. Atzilus is bligvul compared to the gvul of biyah. Why are we calling the Yidden the Doire Deya, who are experiencing Yitzias Mitzrayim with Gilu Shem Havaya and about to go to Matan Torah? Why are they called Tzivas Hashem? That's the bottom line question. Let's now see it in the text. Are we kind of clear? So we've already, I'm not going to redo the re-say the text where he said it. Let's continue from exactly where we're up to.
The line that begins in Z. On page 26.
Okay, it's a third of the way down.
Say that again.
A third of the way down will be
Mizem moving. So let's just go back to the line before the Vari Gili B'Peil, the actual Gili B'Peil, which he called, the Mittel Rebbe calls what? Shem Kino Yashem Pula, what's it called? You have a term? Yeah, Shem Pula, Shem Kinoi. So actually communicating it, an idea, and communicating it not just internally, but so much so that someone else can hear it. And that's finite compared to the infinite well of pure intellect, not just a kalim, but pure koyach hamaskil that lies at the core of the nefesh. So we can appreciate the great distance between chacham, when we call someone a chacham and we are describing his actual lecture, even if we're not talking about the actual lecture, but the person himself, if we say he's a chacham in the sense of how he can relate to another, which is the same package, he's actually doing it, or we're relating to him as a communicator, so it's quite clear that there's a vast difference between that, the Shema Torah and Shema Etzem. Shema Torah, again, meaning his IQ, Shema Etzem, and his essential, inexhaustible well of immeasurable and undefined. All he can say is Chacham. Not going to give a number to it there. IQ gets a number, but Shema Etzem doesn't even get a number. So Shema Torah is Kalim. That's the Kalim of Atzilus, united with the Shema Etzem. In brackets, the two unite and become one. What two? His Etzem Koyach Chachma and the IQ where it's expressed. Kanal B'inyan Yoav Chachma Selachkimin. Hashem gives. I mistranslated. It wasn't a directive to give. It's a statement Hashem gives, but also raised the question. I'm going to repeat it again. Is it possible that a person can be? The emphasis kind of yes, as I'm thinking about it. Question remains under. It could be that at the Etzem level of Chachma, everybody does. What differentiates us is the IQ. It's possible on some level. And that's why Yoav Chacham Salach Kimin, that the Eibishter, for some Neshamas, so their manifested faculties are in line with the Etzem Koyach HaChacham. Tzarech, but it could be on some level, yes. Certainly because all Neshamas, if you trace it back, all started at Atzilus. Just how deep in the nefesh it is. Anyway, so it is true what I'm saying to some degree if you follow that. You follow? That's why we're saying he gives. There's some Neshamas where they're aligned with this deep potential that everybody has, very, very deep. That most of us are not in touch that deep with our own neshama. Certainly, if it descended into Bria and the Tzimtzum completely eclipsed Begoloi, the way our neshama was in Atzilus. So we're not connected to that level as the neshamas in Atzilus, for sure not. But there are those neshamas, even that they descend in Ishtal Shalos, still connected to that Tzim Koyach HaChachma, and their faculties reflect that. Anyway, it's Tzarech. Doesn't change what we need to understand here. Shezeo achiluk shebein gvul ubli gvul. The difference between the Pula, the difference between describing the unity of the Shema Torah and Shema Etzem, as opposed to Pu'ula, an actual manifestation, is like the distinction between Gvul and Bli Gvul, finite and infinite. Sharinyan the Yov Chachma Selach Kimun. Because the higher level, the deeper level within the Nefesh, Etzem HaChachma, then the IQ, in the bracket Shem Etzem Shem Atoya, Uboifin Shel Blikvo, that's endless. IQ can produce, if you say a person has IQ such and such, so okay, you can have endless discovery, endless insight, endless teachings. But if you're describing an actual expression, Hagili B'Poel is actually expressing wisdom, the actual lecture, his actual manifestation. So much so that outsiders listening to it, that's a very, there the Chachma is very limited. It starts and it ends, and he's given his lecture and written the book. It's a particular subject. It's incomparable. So this is all now the Nimshal, now the Moshel. So this is the difference between the seven, the classic seven, that are not erased. Important point is Shem Havaya, Shem Ha'etzem. Shem Havaya is really the Shem Ha'etzem. And it's the essence of all of the names, all of the others. That's how we find that it joins with them, and they are mentioned together as one. Kel Elikim, yeah, but Elikim, Ad Hashem Tzvakas. We find Havaya is associated with all of them. Kel Havaya, Havaya Elikim, even Havaya Tzvakas. Why? Havaya is the level of oil. Vashar Hashem is in B'chinas HaKelim, so that's the Etzem. Havaya is the Etzem Shem, the Etzem name Chacham. Vashar Hashem is in B'chinas HaKelim, and the other, not Shem Tzvakas, they are the Kelim Shem Atoya, namely Atzilus. But the Agufa and Yikol Hashem is in B'chinas Pnimius HaKelim. That in the Shemus, except for Tzvakas, they are Pnimius HaKelim, the higher level of Keli, not the external Keli, the words, the actual lecture, but the faculties, the IQ, Shemisachtim Ima'ir, which are one with the Etzem Koich, with the Oir, with the Etzem Koich HaChochma. Al derech Shem Atoya, Shemisachtim Shem Etzem, as we describe Shem Atoya being one with Shem Etzem. However, are we following all this? Yes? Shem Tzvakis B'chinas Chitzonius HaKelim, where the Shem Tzvakis is already the Chitzonius. This is still called Chacham. It's the same person. It's one Eibishter. It's the same person, but he is already, as the Eibishter is expressing Chachma to creation. Derech Shema Pe'ula. Chitzonius HaKelim. The actual words, the actual Shazeo Masha Nimshach V'Medidav Akbala. Here it's coming out in a very measured way. He keeps on separating because there's the way it is within himself as he's thinking it through in this, before actually he says, like in Machshav al Derech. And certainly when he actually says it, but in Machshav it's already limited when he thinks about a particular idea. So that's already Ulam Izbiyah. So that's Shem Tzvakos. So what he's saying here is he's saying Hashem has different names. It's really one name. Like I said, there's the beautiful mashal here. He's a Chacham. Period. We're ascribing Chachma. But there's Chachma on all these levels. It's the way it's Be'etzem, the way it is the Shem Atoya, the way it is in Pe'ula. Hence we have the different names. It's one Eibishter. There's no identity crisis here. Shamavaya being the Oir of all the Shemas. So now he's saying, the Gemara said that Chana was the first person to call the Eibishter by the name Tzvakos. Again, Scripture refers to Hashem that way, but that's like the Eibishter talking about himself. But a person calling, that was Chana, who is symbolic of, and she was part of the Nevi'im. So binyan zeh pulas on Nevi'im, and that's the whole pull of the Nevi'im. The Nevi'im already are living at a time. For the world that the Neshamas have descended, the world has descended. It's no longer Neshamas, that's Ilis. So therefore, B'Kriyas Shem Tzvakos, they have to invoke the name Tzvakos. Shegam Shom, the big Chiddush Taka, Shegam Shom Yumshach, Liyos iyu v'chayoy v'gam boicha. That even in Shem Tzvakis, even in Biyah, should be the recognition that it's all Eibishter, notwithstanding the hardcore limitation of it all. That was the Avodah required then. In other words, to rephrase that, it would mean that even as the lecturer is lecturing, not to get caught up in the seichel, but to look at him and see the person, the etzem, the chacham, to see the chacham in every word that he's saying, and even to the chacham to the level of the shema etzem, the very being of the chacham, the author. Not to lose sight of the author, notwithstanding the very elaborate speech and insight that he's giving, that you can be lost on. I told you many times like a marshal for this. Why dafka ne'elam hazeh, where there's no gili at all, so we say the etzem resides over here. It may confuse us a bit, because now he's speaking about the downshot, the downside of biyah. But I'm talking now the mile of ilam hazeh, because biyah there is giloyim. Biyah there is you're getting the seichel, you're getting the glory. In biyah the spheres there are glorious, which is why the malachim are infatuated in their experience of Hashem. But ilam hazeh is already a different story, complete hell never has to. So, but it dovetails with what I'm saying. The hainu. So Moshe, I've told you before. Imagine Einstein. I'll start saying you're going to remember. The first time that he's giving the equals MC squared lecture. Yeah, he's giving it to the world's foremost physicists who never saw him before. So imagine the scene. It's a dark room. Light goes on. Einstein starts speaking. He's with the blackboard talking. Lecture is over. Light goes off. Not one of those professors afterwards in the lineup could identify who Einstein is, what he looks like. Anything. They're completely absorbed by the seichel. This is the oir. This is the Moshe. The oir eclipses the etzem. Dafke, a simpleton, you and I, sitting in that lecture, who didn't get a word. There's a lineup. Who's Einstein? Can go over and give a hak to Einstein. Dafke, because nothing but the truth is all I saw was his nose and his eyes, etc., and the physical Einstein. But the fact is, I can point and say, who? This is him. Dafke, because the whole revelation was lost on me. Similar to here, he's saying the avodah of the Nevi'im is that even though Olam is biyah, where the author is eclipsed somewhat in the oir, the lecture, the glory of the lecture is revealed, that they have to be mamshich there, this bittul, what's the whole mind of the whole lecture here? That the Eibush is lecturing. This is all Eibush. But that was an avodah which the Nevi'im had to do. It wasn't required in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. This wasn't lost on them. They were living in a rarefied world. Somebody saying something? Yeah. Not lost by the Giluim. And not Nasiv Malka. But the Chiddush there is that despite experiencing the Giluim, that's like being in the lecture and getting the Giluim and still seeing the Etzem. That's the big Chiddush. Okay, right. So being in Zeh, let's finish the ice. We'll pull us on the Vim Bekriyas Shem Tzvokos. Shesham Gam Shegam Shom Yumshech Lias Ivachai V'Gam Echad. Their Halavoid is in a world where Bria, certainly Elam Hazeh, but Bria they were holding is a variety, they were high in the Shamas, higher than us. But their Avodah was that notwithstanding the actual lecture and the beauty and the glory and the descriptiveness of it all, which is so highly impressive, they have to mamshich the Seibishter. But this wasn't required. Hashem ben Moshe v'Deira shel Moshe didn't need this avodah. Shasoi Yisrael wasn't lost on anybody. But matzav kazeh shaloi ha'ilem shaychas madidav akbal delim is biyah. They weren't caught up in akbala. It's ivach hayoycha. They're living the chatchila with havayu alikim. Shem b'chinas zulas. They're not in the world of outside. They're not foreigners, outsiders. Biyah is outsiders, relative to the inner palace, the inner sanctum of Atzilus. They're not only in the level of Chad. They're not shaykhs to that world. So therefore, mitzadrichu ka'erach d'Hashem tzvokos, l'shar Hashem is having appreciated the beautiful marshal of the Mittel Rebbe, to make us understand it's all the same name, Chacham, Chacham, Chacham. But it's a completely lower plane. Move on Yoyse, good lakushim sheba we appreciate with greater depth the question of the Maimer that he asks in one line there, Ma'in Yisrael. Excuse me. Nikro az b'shem tzivis avai. Now the teretz, Tzemach Tzedek. Yeah? Vazem teretz mavai ba'maimer. I think it's the Tzemach Tzedek here. Oh, it's coming soon. Shashem tzivis avai meloshen tzovo. So the Yidden are called tzivis avai. What does this mean? Let's analyze it. So it's meloshen tzovo. Tzova. Now what does that mean? Shesh begimel perushim, 3 perushim. Aleph loshen chayil. Troops. Kvish mavai behemshach hasifim shalach rezeh, which he elaborates further later on in the mile of the soldier, the Mesiras Nefesh, the Bittul. That's one pirush. Huh? Pirush beis loshen zman mugbal. It means set time. Kamishakos, the pasuk says, "Alei tzvo le'enish alei oretz." Is there not set time for man upon the face of the earth? We all get allotted time. And the third pirush is beauty. Now, I'd mentioned that I looked up the Gemara in the Mefarshim. The simple taich of Tzivian is Meloshen Sovi, desire. The Gemara says that each creation was created according to its desire. That it should. But there's another pirush there. In what the pirush taka there is harmonious.
It's like colors.
Colors, yeah. I guess Meloshen 7. It's actually brought to Mefarshim, and that's the one the Frierdiker Rebbe is quoting here. So what does harmony mean? Mavayir. The first one is more poshut because there's no ayin. Tzovi means desire in Lashon Arami. And Tzivian is a color, we're missing an ayin. That often happens. It often happens like this. Letters drop, especially letters which are silent, relatively. Ayin is not so silent. Aleph is more silent. Ayin is really like the Taimanim say it. It's also relatively silent. That, by the way, is the source of, we say yankel. Where does the come? Because really the ayin is really a sound, not like which is more the top of the throat. At any rate, the Mavayir HaPirish, the Tzav Melosh and Tzivian v'Yoifi Kvishu ben Neshamas Yisrael explains how this applies to Neshamas. This idea of what of harmony. Harmony implies, of course, difference, but harmonizing. Just like beauty is when there's many colors, it doesn't mean the colors mix together. It means colors in harmony. The governor, one color, although today with modern art you can't know. A person could paint a canvas of red and put a black dot and fetch tens of thousands. Don't ask me to explain that. So this says that's ein b'yofi. It's all in the convergence and the harmony of the different colors and shapes and so on. Find a kasha kol gavan ein b'vnei atzmoi. It's when the colors don't stand independent. It's incorporated with the other ones. I guess it also means mixing them as well, but it means, as you says clearly later, the colors remain separate colors, but they are enhanced with their fusion and interplay with the other ones. Certainly Yidden are different in the different levels. It's quoting from the Maimon. This is the Frierdiker Rebbe. Bali Hasaga, you have the intellectual Shem Badi Torah, masters of Torah. That seems like it's like Nigla or Mari Rozin, beside this Eloy, the masters of secrets and supernal mysteries. Mari de Chochmasa, in other words, masters of wisdom, of Chochmah. Then we have some Anashim Pshutim, simple folk, Shem Rak Mari, Uvdin Tov, and they are masters of good deeds. Shemakaim Misater Mitzvah, this is all part of the quote. I think is Medaik and some of the Lashonis. Shemakaim Misater Mitzvah Betmimus, that they keep Torah mitzvahs with wholehearted sincerity. V'zehu tzivyonim, and this is their beauty. This is the beauty of them as individuals, as he will say, and the beauty of Klal Yisrael. Shotachlis hayofi, this is the ultimate beauty. Masher kol meribe gvanim, beauty is created when it's the harmony of many colors. The point he's going to say now. It's not just the big picture, so all the colors come together make a beautiful picture. It's not just that. It's not just that when Yidden harmonizing together, and each one does his avodah, so together we create a whole picture of the Hashem carrying out Hashem's kavanah. There's that too. Each individual is enhanced. The beauty that's created by the whole, each color is enhanced by its bordering and being one with the other. You appreciate the yellow and whatever in contrast as it harmonizes with the other colors. And likewise, Baruchnius. Serving Hashem together. This means the Hashem does all chiddush. It's not like he can't learn. At least do your mitzvahs. No, it's appreciating his avodah, and the doer appreciating the avodah of the scholar and contributing, helping each other how possible. Each one is enhanced. Even though he's doing his avodah, the masters of secrets of Torah, and the other end of the spectrum, the ones who keep Torah mitzvahs. So that's the of what? Of Tzava, Tzivus Hashem, first Pirush, or actually it's the second, the third Pirush, which means harmony, colors. And then he says, and then he explains the word Tzava in terms of Akbala, of limitation of might and set time. Let's remember this pasuk because we're going to revisit it and touch it b'pnimius. The pasuk, it's a pasuk in Tillim. Yomim Yitzoru, he formed days, v'loi echad, and unto him is one. Now, that's the way we read it. But the way it's written, it's with an aleph. V'loi echad, and there is not one. So Rashi explains the Kri and the Ksiv. The Rashi's Pirush is important to know. Loi with the Vav, and to him is one. God chose one of the days as special, which is supposed what? Which day of the week is special? Shabbos. V'loi with an aleph, it's talking about Hashem forming days pre-creation before any days actually emerged. He already has, in Hashem's mind, as it were, formed them all, v'loi echad, before even one of them had actually manifested. That's pshat. This will be explained, the loi with the vav, and the loi with an aleph will be explained later in the Maimon by the Rebbe, the Pnimius. But this is all a quote from the Frierdiker Rebbe now. And he's saying that the second explanation is explaining now, that Tzava means time. This is similar to Yomim Yitzoru, Hashem formed days, v'lo echad, and him is one. No elaboration really here. They will explain it. The tzvol inish ali oretz. All the Frierdiker is telling us is you've got X amount of days allotted to you on this world. These are words of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Everybody has his set days. The person doesn't know. He goes on to explain later. The person doesn't know when his time is up, and therefore every day is going to be to the fullest. The Frierdiker concludes, when a person's days are full, in Avodas Berurim, in his engagement in the world the way it should be, resisting and transforming. He has earned that Tzivus Hashem, a Jew who lives with his day full. Days full. Could be already here the Taichi is Yom Mitzoru. Hashem formed his days, v'loi echad, and he gives to him each one of his days. It could be implied here. But anyway, the Rebbe himself will further elaborate the loy echad, both the vav and the aleph. But the summary here is, we started to get an answer. We didn't get the answer yet. Starting to get the answer why Shem Tzvokos. So first what we're told now is that Shem Tzvokos is very significant. Number one, it means what? Harmony. So it's talking about every Yid's avodah as we stand, each one in their particular avodah, in harmony with our fellow Jew, which completes the whole and enhances the individual. And this is done in such a way that each day allotted is filled and used appropriately with avodah. That too earns, and that's part of Tzivas Hashem. And now to be continued. Be'ez Hashem.
Something not also for the same.
Not yet.
Okay, I'm going to bring it after because it seems to me that to bring up the same point as the Lashon Tzivit V'Yefi. You need an army of your paratrooper, your infantryman, and your tankist, and etc. And it's all got to be
True, but the main devotion of the Chayil is Mesiras Nefesh. That's the what he brings out there on the battlefield, Kabbalah Sale.
with this I need too.
Yeah, with all of it. Yeah. Basi L'Gani 9, correct?